My home state of North Carolina has more artists than you think. From hip-hop, names include P.D. Pablo, J. Cole, Tuzi, DaBaby, Murray, Tia Corine, shout out 336, among others. R&B we have Fantasia, shout out High Point, and Anthony Hamilton. And it would be criminal if I didn't mention Nina Simone. Most of these artists mentioned are from the 704, just like the subject of today's video, an R&B group named Jodeci. Today we're going to look at Jodeci and discuss the highs and lows of this once beloved R&B group. So without further ado,
can we have a moment of silence for this small chronic break?
Before we begin, if you want to see music bios or more good videos like this, hit the subscribe button. Also, I've started a Patreon account. On here you get more copyrighted material and they'll be uploaded 48 hours prior to YouTube. If you want to support or visit, link is in the description. And without further ado, on to our feature presentation. The group Jodeci is comprised by two sets of brothers. Cedric K-Ci Hailey was born on September 2nd, 1969, high birthday twin, and Joelle JoJo Hailey was born on June 10th, 1971, a birthday twin for my mother, in Charlotte, North Carolina. As youth, the family lived in Baltimore, Maryland and performed gospel music. Along with his brother and father, they formed Little Cedric and the Hailey Singers. As teens, they moved back to Charlotte. Donald DeVante Swing Degrate was born on September 29th, 1969, and Dalvin, Mr. Dalvin Degrate, was born on July 23rd, 1971 in Hampton, Virginia. Like the Hailey brothers, they also toured the country through their own gospel group. At 16, DeVante left the group for Minneapolis to seek employment through Prince, but was rejected. He went back to Charlotte to improve his songwriting and production skills. The boys met through girlfriends and other acquaintances, but when they met face to face, a near fight broke out between K-Ci and Dalvin, where K-Ci allegedly pulled a gun out on Dalvin, but they made up shortly after. DeVante went back to Charlotte and started experimenting with JoJo. The two made plans to go to New York to shop for record labels, but their brothers, K-Ci and Dalvin, tagged along at the last minute. Upon arriving in New York, the boys struggled to locate Uptown Records, so they used a phone book and found the company's address in Brooklyn. The boys arrived there without appointment, and Andre Harrell nearly turned them away, but eventually they let them perform. They performed songs that will eventually appear on their debut album, and Andre was still unimpressed, until rapper Heavy D overheard them and begged Harrell to sign them. Harrell eventually took them to dinner, and that's when they were offered a record contract. They will be mentored by Sean Puffy Combs, the man who's
all in the video, all on the record, dancing.
Most R&B groups wore suits and were class acts. Not Jodeci, who preferred backward hats and Timberland boots, and Puffy used that to their advantage. In May 1991, Jodeci released their first album, Forever My Lady. Their first single was Gotta Love, but that song didn't make any noise. This could have been the end of the group, but they released the title track as their next single. The song was written by Albie Short, and his inspiration from the single was his then girlfriend Kim Porter and their son Quincy. The song became the group's first charting single, going number 1 on the R&B charts and peaking at number 25 on the Hot 100. Other songs included Stay, Come and Talk to Me, which peaked at number 11 on the Hot 100 and number 1 on the R&B charts, and I'm Still Waiting, as the album went quadruple platinum. In 1993, Uptown was featured on MTV Unplugged series. Artists featured were Mary J. Blige, Father MC, Christopher Williams, and Heavy D. Jodeci was the first to perform and quickly became the highlight of the show. During their performance, they covered a Stevie Wonder hit Lately, and that was released as a promo single. The song peaked at number 4 on the Billboard charts and number 1 on the R&B, their highest charting single to date. Their performance gave them momentum to work on their second album. The result will be Diary of a Mad Band, released in December 1993. Fun fact, this is the first album to feature credits from Missy Elliott and Timberland on production. Singles included Cry For You, Fiendin', What About Us as the album went double platinum. During their second album, Jodeci became frustrated with the treatment of the label. As a result, Uptown did not heavily promote the album, and the boys started to flirt with Death Row.
And Death Row.
Suge came around and he taught us about the business a lot.
Okay.
And although we had sold a gang of albums, there was no signs that we were more successful than we sold 100. You know,
So you guys were all broke.
Basically, I mean, you know, we went through the thing that artists go through. You just unaware of what's going on. We're just happy to be in public and sell. Suge came in at a time and he explained to us what the business was about. You know, he never asked us for anything. You know, he just like, you know, I like you guys, and you know, Snoop they was fans of Jodeci, and we're fans of Snoop and Dre, and he made the connection between us and Death Row, and you know, he started educating us on the business. You know, 'cause we go around Snoop and them, they got 10, 12 cars and jewelry, and we just, you know, like, oh, you know, at the time we were just neck and neck at record sales, and we looking at them how they living and how we living, and it wasn't adding up.
Yeah.
So we started asking questions, you know, and nobody was giving us straight answers, and it was just, okay, well, listen, well, let me help you guys.
Okay.
And that's just how the whole Death Row, Suge Knight, Jodeci.
While on Uptown, K-Ci started to get romantically involved with Mary J. Blige, but the relationship ended on a rocky note when Blige went on TV and flashed an engagement ring. But K-Ci denied the relationship, humiliating Blige.
The series, and Terry asked K-Ci this question. Have a look at this.
You're going to break a few hearts because I've heard that you're going to marry Mary J. Blige, aren't you?
No! That's a rumor. You know what I'm saying? That's a rumor for the States, too, you know. K-Ci is not getting married.
No huge engagement ring.
Oh, yeah, whatever. Let's move on, please.
Okay, but now...
Disgusted.
Mr. Dalvin began dating TLC frontwoman Tioni T-Boz Watkins as she appeared on the video Love You for Life. The relationship ended around 1997. DeVante started to date Madonna around the same time. In 1993, DeVante and K-Ci met a woman at a club and took them back to DeVante's apartment. The woman filed charges claiming K-Ci quote-unquote touched her wrong while DeVante pointed a gun at her. Both men pled guilty. But not long after, DeVante was robbed of $160,000, jumped, and held at gunpoint at his own house. It was said DeVante's mental was never the same after the incident.
At first it happened on my birthday.
Okay.
And we didn't know anything about it. They threw him a surprise birthday party. We was working on Let's Be Alone, one of the songs on the Diary of a Madman album. And we was waiting on DeVante, waiting, and it started getting late. You know, everybody in the studio waiting on DeVante. We kept calling. And it was like, something ain't right, man. He just wouldn't not show up or come to the studio or something. So, you know, our manager called the studio, was like, no, everybody get to DeVante's house. You know, somebody's broke in. We didn't even know the severity of the situation. And, you know, they broke in his house, tried to kill him.
But they tried to kill him?
Well, man, they split his skull open.
Oh, so they pistol whipped him?
Yep. Tied him up. Man, he was fighting back. He bit one of the guy's fingers off. And
wait, he bit one of the guy's fingers off?
Yeah, I mean, it was bad. So.
While in Jodeci, DeVante had begun producing for other artists. Artists included Usher, H-Town, Montel Jordan, Al Green, and even Aerosmith. On the Dangerous Minds soundtrack, he did his first solo song called Gin and Juice, and that featured rapper Static Major. K-Ci was featured on the Jason Lyrics soundtrack when he covered the Bobby Womack classic If You Think You're Lonely. In July 1995, Jodeci released their third album, The Show, The Afterparty, The Hotel. The lead-off single was Freaking You, and that peaked at number 14 on the Hot 100. What followed was Love You for Life, and that peaked at number 31. Finally, Get On Up served as the third single, and that was a Mr. Dalvin production. Get On Up also used the Vellas by Quincy Jones and Toots Thielemans sample as it peaked at number 22 on the Hot 100. The Show, The Afterparty, The Hotel went platinum. Now, not much is known about the end of Jodeci. While he was the producer and leader of the group, DeVante was rarely seen on stage during this time. On the Get On Up video, which is the only song by Jodeci not produced by him, he didn't appear. Meanwhile, K-Ci and JoJo were featured on the Tupac's #1 hit, How Do You Want It? Turns out, K-Ci and JoJo had other side projects, and that was turned into a full-fledged album with their new label, MCA promoted it as such. In 1997, K-Ci and JoJo made an appearance on the movie Soul Food. In the movie, they were part of a one-off group called Milestone, which comprised of the Edmond brothers. They recorded the song Care About You. That same year, K-Ci and JoJo released their first album, Love Always. This was the first project in which majority was written by the Hailey brothers, and they only had one song written by DeVante from Jodeci. But the album would feature a song written by JoJo in homage to his new daughter called All My Life. He almost gave the song away to an unknown female artist before keeping the song for himself. Glad he didn't, because the song became the fair's first #1 single as a lead act. All My Life also saw 2 nominations at the Grammys and placed 98 on the Decade Ends charts. Thanks to All My Life, Love Always went triple platinum. In 1998, they followed up with It's Real. That album featured the song Tell Me It's Real, and that song peaked at #2 on the Hot 100. They also recorded the song Life, which was featured on the soundtrack of the same name. It's Real would go platinum. In 2000, a third album called X, which singled 10 years since breaking through in the music industry, was released. The album only featured one hit called Crazy, as that was also featured on the Save the Last Dance soundtrack, and that peaked at #11 on the Hot 100. In 2000, K-Ci was arrested for a decent exposure when he flashed the crowd. He pled no contest. As a result, he was placed on 2 years probation and fined $910. K-Ci and JoJo were arrested in 2003 for failure to file taxes for the years 1999 through 2001. Both pled guilty and paid the taxes. Both brothers, especially JoJo, struggled with alcoholism. During an onstage performance of All My Life, JoJo collapsed on stage. In 2010, TV One produced a docuseries following the boys' current struggles with alcohol as they work to rebuild their relationship and make a comeback. So what have the Degrate brothers been up to? Well, Mr. Dalvin released a solo album in 2000, Metamorphic, under Madonna's label Maverick Records. Afterwards, Dalvin kept a low profile. DeVante continued to produce for the industry, but in 2010, he was arrested for public intoxication after appearing drunk at a Los Angeles subway. He was released once he sobered up the next day. In 2014, Jodeci and Timberland announced plans to record a new album. That same year, they performed on the Soul Train Awards, their first public performance in a decade. In 2015, they released The Past, Present, and Future, their first album in 20 years, and spawned the single Every Moment. In 2020, K-Ci released the gospel album Jesus Saved, and the motivation behind this project was a brush with death when he suffered a stroke. In either 2022 or 2023, JoJo himself suffered a stroke. In 2023, Jodeci headlined a summer R&B tour that featured SWV and Dru Hill. Jodeci have been labeled as one of the most influential R&B groups of all time. They not only influenced R&B, but also hip-hop with their bad boy persona, and the fact that their music was heavily sampled, too many to name here. Today, Jodeci still tour, produce, and work on solo endeavors. And that concludes Jodeci, the bad boys of R&B. Tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.